From the far-out free-lovin' 60s to the groovy disco of the 70s, even the big hair 80s, The Brew plays only classic hits. KOKL, Okmulgee, Oklahoma.
SJ, welcome to Mvskoke Radio, your weekly source for tribal and community news, interesting guests and discussions, plus a local events calendar. Este Stongo, Gary Fife, Jahu Jeff Kados, Mvskoke Radio, Mabu Hedjadowetskis. Good morning and welcome to our program today. Appreciate you joining us here. A couple things we'll be sharing here today. We have the Annual Symposium of the American Indian coming up a little later this spring. And we'll be talking with Sarah Barnett about the importance of that American Indian Symposium being held at Northeastern State University in Tahlequah. I went to that school when it was still a college, so it shows you how old I am. In our second portion, we'll be speaking with Nancy Mason. We have the spring celebration coming up that gives our little ones and young people a chance to celebrate culture and have a nice afternoon, weather permitting. And so we'll be talking with her in that portion. So let's go to work here. Good morning, Ms. Barnett. Are you with us?
I am. Good morning to you.
Okay. How are things over in Tahlequah?
Doing good today. It's nice and warm today. I hear it's going to change, but
yeah, Oklahoma's going to catch up with us pretty quick.
Yes.
Now, we are calling ahead of time here for some information on the upcoming Symposium of the American Indian. Now, did I get that title right?
Yes, sir, you did.
Okay. Now, this is an annual, what we call this, seminar, meeting, convention that examines the historical and contemporary issues concerning the native peoples of the state of Oklahoma, and sponsored by Northeastern State University. And as I said, it was State College when I was there back in the end of the 60s and the start of the 70s. And a lot of changes happening there, including the school strengthening its Native American curriculum. But first of all, let's give our listeners an idea of what the Symposium of the American Indian is all about.
All right. Well, you provided a pretty good overview there. The symposium is now in its 47th year, so it's very much a long-standing community event. It is free and open to the public, and we encourage individuals from all different demographics to attend, and we send invitations to our K-12 schools. Of course, we engage our college student population, both here and at other institutions that we have partnerships with, educators, professionals, and even community members. So last year, our head count was just over 1,800 individuals that came through our doors and attended various sessions, and so we're looking forward to another successful event this year.
Now, what's your goal in putting all this energy and resource into this event?
Well, it's really an opportunity for the general public and our campus community to get to hear from some nationally known scholars, Native scholars. This year we have several that are featured that have been in the spotlight. But just an opportunity to come and hear these presentations, have a more intimate sort of conversation with these presenters, and also for even our students and our local Native individuals to come and present their research or host different cultural activities throughout the event, really, and just to celebrate our connection to American Indian education here at the university.
Myself and a couple of my colleagues were privileged to be part of one of your panels last year, Freedom of the Press, and we had an interesting exchange with the folks who came in and ask questions, listen to our little sermons and things like that. It's sort of reminiscent of what would they call it, a nightclub as opposed to a concert, where it's a more intimate setting, as you mentioned, and people get to interact with the speakers. Now, is that what you're after there?
Absolutely. We want it to be a comfortable setting for both parties, and our students actually get to sit down and have lunch with some of those keynote speakers who come in, and these individuals serve as keynote speakers at national conferences across the country, where they might charge, $300, $400, or upwards of $600 for a registration fee for each participant to hear this same speaker. And not only can individuals come and hear them free of charge, but like I said, our student leaders get to sit down and actually have lunch with these individuals and get to know them on a more personal level.
Wow, sounds like I'm in the wrong business here. Speaking fees, it's not a bad way to go to do what I normally do here. The range of topics intrigues me. Of course, as I mentioned, freedom of the press last year. But what kind of things will you be examining this year?
Well, this year our theme is celebrating Indigenous women. So we are specifically looking to honor both modern and legendary matriarchs, focusing on the women who've contributed to the success and growth of our Indigenous communities and our individual families. So we want to recognize that Indigenous women serve various roles within both their immediate family, extended family, and their larger communities. We see them as teachers, as caregivers, strategists. They have to do a lot of problem solving as a matriarch. They're counselors and do a lot of work in terms of cultural preservation. And so we want to recognize different women, Indigenous women, who serve in those various capacities, both from the past and the present, from those that are the most well-known as some of our keynote speakers, and even those that are just kind of beginning to emerge and be recognized. And so that's our goal. However, we do have some other concurrent sessions, presentations that will focus on other areas, including anthropology, history, art, and the language revitalization is always a component of the symposium.
Now, you mentioned past and present there. Let me focus on that for a second. The dominant society has been weaned on stereotypical images of Indian women being, quiet and silent, and go flesh the buffalo hide and make the soup and this kind of thing. And if the old man wants to, he can beat her, this kind of thing. Mm-hmm. No, we're doing so much more these days with Native women stepping up so much in leadership roles. Just look at Congress now; we've got two women there. So, how are you tackling that and defeating those stereotypes?
I think the symposium always tries to showcase our Indigenous men and women, our Native scholars, if you will, and show that these are real people, everyday people. We are not a people of the past. We are a people of today. And in terms of women, in particular Indigenous women, and the higher rates of domestic violence, sexual abuse, and those things that don't always, come from our Indigenous men. In fact, many times do not come from our Indigenous men. And we do have an exhibit that we're partnering with our library on, and inviting artists to submit artwork to bring awareness to the missing and murdered Indigenous women issue. And so people are encouraged to submit their artwork, and then we will have an art exhibit for the full month of April and be able to have a conversation about that and what we can do as individuals and as a community to help protect not only our women, but also our young girls who are growing up now.
Now, back in prehistoric times when I went to school there, it was still the Redmond, Northeastern State College, and I think the only officially sanctioned group was Unali, the Indian Club, quote unquote, which I had the non-privilege of heading up one year like an idiot. I had no idea what I was doing, and the membership let me know it pretty fast. So, but let's call them the dark old days, so to speak. There were informal Native groups there, powwow kids and then stomp dance kids and Sequoia kids and this kind of thing. Where does the Native American community stand these days in regards to Northeastern?
So we are at the highest. Every year we've gone up in terms of our Native student enrollment. So right now we're just 60 students under the 3,000 mark in terms of students who identify as American Indian. Of course, 2/3 of those are Cherokee students, since we were right here in the heart of Cherokee Nation. But we have grown even since I was a student here. I won't give you the years, but it was little bit after you. And so we now have 7 Native-focused, recognized student organizations on our campus, and so that includes the organization you mentioned, NASA, the Native American Student Association, but we also have a couple of national level organizations. One is ACES, the American Indian Science and Engineering Society. They call themselves the Nerdy Group. And then we have American Indian Business Leaders. And then we have the Organization of Cherokee Language Learners. So those are students who are either majoring in Cherokee language or who are interested in becoming fluent in speaking the language. And so I'm really proud of that group for coming together. And they get together and just do everyday activities, but speak the language, and they meet with the Cherokee language apprentice individuals on a weekly basis. And then we also have 2 Native fraternities and 1 Native sorority. And so there's a little bit of something for everyone in terms of what their interests are. All of them have a connection to Native culture and heritage, and then aside from that, have a slightly different focus in terms of their activities and events that they host.
That is so nice to hear that the administration in the college has really acknowledged its Native American population, especially since so many of them there on scholarships, bringing some cash in.
Absolutely.
And now fraternities and sororities, that's new to me. We had mostly, let's call it what it was, mostly white kids were members of those, and I actually joined with some friends in an anti-fraternity once. We called ourselves Eat a Bama Pie.
Well, the Native fraternity sorority movement, I think, started around the early 2000s. I think we got our first chapter here, I want to say, around 2005. And I believe they started from, I know at least 2 of them started in the North Carolina area and then kind of moved their way across the country. But so they focus a lot on indigenous values and culture, and they do that in different ways in terms of how that's expressed in their activities and their mission statements and such. But they're much smaller organizations, not like your traditional Greek fraternity, but they really are a close-knit group of students and really their own little families, within each one of those groups. And they're pretty active in terms of doing service to the community, as well as focusing on their own professional development, networking, and those kinds of things. Now, they do a lot of good things.
Has the student body, I don't know, how would you describe it, taken to them, so to speak? Do they cooperate well? Do they friendly relationships with everyone pretty much?
Yes, absolutely. And our student engagement office and the Greek life coordinator, they've all been very supportive. The second fraternity just started this fall semester, and I'm actually their advisor. But they have kind of walked us through that process. They've made accommodations when needed. They have a separate Greek council, and so it's for the multicultural Greek council rather than your Pan-Hellenic council. And so, yeah, the administration and other students are very supportive of that and include them in different campus activities and things like that. And all of our student organizations are eligible to apply for funds from the Student Government Association, just like any other organization. And like I said, administration has taken it upon themselves to make sure that we have the support that we need to be successful.
Now, let me ask you for your own opinion here. The Greek life, fraternities and sororities have gotten kind of a black eye in the last year or so of activities that were just despicable in some cases. What are these groups, these Native groups, doing to avoid that or to deal with it, or do you see that sort of thing happening there?
Well, I think for me, most of the negative press, if you will, has been, for the Greek life, has been around many times functions that involve alcohol. And our Native fraternities and sororities are really focused on having events that do not expose them to those kinds of things. They understand that alcoholism has been an issue with our people dating back from colonization, but and so they want to make it a point not to engage in those types of activities. They're not allowed to engage in those activities while they're representing their organizations. And so I think that, along with the focus on community and helping each other, supporting one another, and looking towards bettering themselves and their community, is really what keeps them from having to face those kinds of issues.
Well, I wish they had been around when I was in school there. Gosh.
They would have kept you out of trouble, huh?
Oh, yeah, pretty much, for the most part, yeah. But I actually was a member of the National Indian Youth Council at the time, and we were considered the campus radicals and, the guys who just wanted to tear everything down. I once mentioned that perhaps maybe they could change the image of the red man from that Chief Wahoo-looking ugly thing to something, more dignified. We had all these Indian artists on campus, and I just made that suggestion once, and oh boy, did I create an uproar there, and I almost got rode out of town on a rail for that. But those attitudes have pretty much changed. The school's name now is the Riverhawks, I think, because of some athletic arm twisting there, but are those the bad old days? Are they pretty much gone now?
Well, they're not completely gone. I think it was probably about a year, maybe 2 years ago, when the off-campus bookstore started selling some T-shirts that said Redmond, and it had that caricature that you mentioned. That's very offensive. And we went to town as community members, and me, even my role here at the Center for Tribal Studies. So we tried to educate the bookstore on why that image is hurtful and wrong to use, and then the institution stepped up and I think invoked some licensure privilege, and those shirts were taken off the shelf. So it still happens. And then we worked with university relations as the American Indian Heritage Committee to really try to get them to stop selling the Redmond gear. So a lot of our alumni are Redmond forever, and even though they don't use that negative imagery, they still identify as Redmond. And so during homecoming, the bookstore would often sell Redmond, NSU Redmond gear. And so last year was the final year that they would sell that those items. And so I think we've had a victory in that regard, and moving on to just being the Riverhawks. And I'm one that I was transitioning out of being a student whenever the mascot changed, but I was in favor of changing the mascot, not because Redmond necessarily was offensive to me, but you can't control what other people do with your name, and so people could dress up, as in athletics, as we're competing against other teams and such, they could do what they want with that image. But also I wanted to set an example. The Washington football team, that name is very offensive to me, knowing the history of that term and where it came from. And I felt like the university, us being rooted deep within the American Indian education system, we needed to set an example and go ahead and make that change, and hopefully influence others to do the same, so that our young people don't grow up seeing that kind of imagery, feeling like they're not respected as Native people. And so I am on the other side of that fence, but I do know that there are people who still have the Re-elect Redmond signs in their yard here in Tahlequah, and sometimes that conversation comes up. But so 12 years later, we're still making that transition in terms of that alumni body, but I'm proud of the progress that we've made so far.
That's the word, progress. I'm just so delighted. Thank you for taking the time to fill me in, and I understand people will have different opinions of our discussion here, but I'm glad you shared that. Now, I see the symposium as another sign of the progress, of the advancements that are being made with such a serious look at Native American culture, people, and issues. Is it making a difference, do you think? Do people kind of take it to heart? What do you think there?
I think that the keynote speakers that we bring in do bring a different perspective sometimes to the community here and make people think about things in a different way. And also just to recognize that some of the work that we're doing, especially like in regards to language revitalization, that these efforts are going on in other Indigenous communities across the nation. And what can we learn from each other? How can we support one another through this process? I think is an important conversation to be had. And then, again, our keynote speakers this year include Erin Griffin, who is working with the Sisseton-Wahpeton Tribal College. She's the director of Dakota Studies. And then we have, coming from the literature side of things, Mary Jo Tippeconic Fox, who's been around for quite a while. And so she's going to present on Indigenous women, community, and Native well-being. And then we have a group called the Matriarchs who are coming to talk about Indigenous-centered solutions through community organizing. And I think that's an important piece of the symposium this year, as you see our Indigenous communities uniting around different topics, different efforts, and really it's almost like the resurgence of the AIM movement, coming back in some ways, going back to the pipeline issues and how the community came together for that on a national level. But we can do that on a local level as well to advocate for our communities and to make sure that policies are not being enacted that negatively can affect us as Indigenous people. And then we have Tara Hauska, who's coming. She works for Honor the Earth. She's the National Campaigns Director. She's going to speak on water women keepers. And so she is definitely known on that national level, has been very involved in the pipeline divest campaigns, as well as starting the change the Redskins mascot. And so people have probably seen her on in different forms of media. But we're super excited about this group coming, all women. Of course, my staff here at the Center for Tribal Studies, our full-time staff happens to be all women, so we are very excited about this theme and just to be able to highlight our fellow matriarchs. And I do want to say that this event is free and open to the public, and it's largely due to individual contributions. We do a lot of grant writing and proposal development here at the Center for Tribal Studies to make sure that this event is free and open to the public. And so we have support from the Oklahoma Arts Council, Oklahoma Humanities Council, the Chickasaw Nation, the Osage Foundation, the Cherokee Nation Casino here in Tahlequah, and of course the River Spirit Casino from the Tulsa area. And so I just want to acknowledge their support and helping to make sure that this long-standing community event can continue to take place and expand. And the university also, supports us with some funding as well. And so I just hope that people, will listen to this, but also to take advantage of the opportunity to hear some of these speakers that are coming in April.
All right, Sarah Barnett, we have to wrap this up. Why don't you give us some of the logistical information about the upcoming symposium, date, time, location, etc.?
Awesome. Well, our events will be located here in Tahlequah on the main campus, and we have the film series that will be the evening of April 8th and the 9th, and then keynotes and concurrent sessions will be April 10th through the 12th, and then, of course, we wrap it up with our NSU powwow on April the 13th. And so they can go to cts.nsuok.edu and follow the link to the symposium page to get more information, and they can also find the NSU Center for Tribal Studies and Annual Symposium on the American Indian on our Facebook pages.
Okay, thank you so much. By the way, I understand, are you Mvskoke?
I am.
Surrounded by all those Cherokees.
I am.
Okay, well, good luck in keeping it up and surviving. So we appreciate your time, Mado. Okay. It was Sarah Barnett with the Symposium on the American Indian. We're going to take a short pause here, and then we'll be back. We have Nancy Mason joining us today, and we're going to talk about the spring celebration coming up. Let's start thinking about spring. So stay with us here on Mvskoke Radio.
Hear that? That's the sound of Hope being killed by meth. Methamphetamine use is causing huge problems in our community. Hear that? That's the sound of something you can do about it. Events like rodeo, res ball, and family time can help keep kids away from meth.
Talk to your kids. Keep our culture alive. A message from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America and the National Congress of American Indians.
Learn more at ncai.org.
I started doing it when I was 11. I wanted to be just like my big brother. And some of my friends were already doing it. We got hooked fast. I just can't get enough. I'm Jacob, and I'm addicted to playing the drums.
There's lots of stuff that makes it cool to be Native. Doing meth isn't one of them. Find something better to do. Check out ncai.org. A message from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America and the National Congress of American Indians.
Welcome back to Mvskoke Radio. We want to also welcome Nancy Mason, who's come in to talk about the spring celebration. First of all, Nancy, let me get your title and department down there correctly.
Okay, I'm the director of the Mvskoke Nation Youth Services Program.
Okay, let's try that again. Some of your mic was down.
All right, I'm the director of the Mvskoke Nation Youth Services Program.
Okay, great. What does that particular office do? What's your mission?
So our mission is to empower Mvskoke youth by connecting them to culture, community, and resources. We are part of the Mvskoke Tribal Child and Youth Coalition, and so that's actually the organization or the group of different entities that coordinate spring celebration. So we are just one small piece of that big effort.
Well, that's such an important effort. You want to be able to connect with our young people at a stage in their life when they're still forming opinions and thoughts and the way they live their life. So what's, I guess, your mission, and what do you see it as?
So with the coalition, the mission is to promote wellness with young people, to support our parents and help them to have healthy environments to grow up in with their children. So overall, the Tribal Child Youth Coalition, there's multiple agencies within the tribe and the communities that work together: tobacco prevention, behavioral health, TANF, just a multitude. I can't even name all of them. Diabetes program. We try to get all programs that serve young people and families involved with the Tribal Child Youth Coalition. We're always looking for more programs, as well as community members, parents and guardians. We'd love to have all of that input. We meet the last Friday, the fourth Friday of every month. Currently we're meeting at the College of Mvskoke Nation at 11 a.m. So right before that lunch hour is the meeting time. People can take their lunch right after, or if they have to take lunch, we welcome them to come at that time also and just be a part of that coalition. They can call our office at 549-2557 to get more information about being a part of the coalition. We'd love to have them.
So you have a lot of kids leaving Cheeto dust behind.
Sometimes.
It's one of my favorites. Now the role of parents in the support mechanism for kids is, I'm glad you mentioned it, such an important part of what your overall concept is, I presume. Now, is there something in particular that you like to do that works well with parents and support structure?
I think for us, it's really just giving them information that they need to meet their child's needs. So it's going to be different with every one of them. Obviously, we focus within our Mvskoke Nation Youth Services Program on advocacy, wellness, culture, and so really trying to connect people with those things. And a lot of that plays right into the Tribal Child Youth Coalition. Like, it's a perfect fit for us because what the coalition supports, we also do. And so helping those parents just to get connected sometimes to the right resources, or having a person that they can call and say, hey, here's what's going on, who do I need to call? And so getting them then referred to the correct location is really important.
Now, let me ask you perhaps for a subjective opinion. And that's pretty much along the lines of how well are you doing kind of question. Do you have a feel for the number of Mvskoke young people there are, and perhaps the numbers that your effort deals with?
There's tons. We obviously don't touch all of them. I think for our last couple of fiscal years, we've worked with 500 to 600 young people at different events, sometimes individually. And a lot of those are collaborations, again, where we're working with other programs. But in general, the ones that we've had some kind of connection with, on a regular basis, we work with our youth council, and so that's about 35 young people that we have more intensive relationships with. And so we know that even though in that group of young leaders, there's still lots of things that they are dealing with, challenges and those kind of things. And so really trying to support them and provide opportunities to them where they can try new things and grow, and sometimes even just, be recognized for the good work that they're doing. So,
well, let me ask you about that, and I guess the highs and the lows of what you see. What, I guess, are the bright spots? What are the strong points that you're seeing here when working with these young people?
Yeah, I think it's easy to say, that they received this award or this accomplishment, that kind of thing. But for me, honestly, it's the littler things when we see the young person who comes to our group who is super shy and not really engages a lot, to becoming one of the leaders in the group who, are now officers within the program and things like that. So that they're within themselves finding growth. And so that's the things that I think I enjoy the most in seeing. But I obviously love when they make really cool accomplishments also, so that we can, be excited and celebrate with them, because I think that's also a piece of that support, to not only be there when they're struggling and having challenges, but when the things are going really good, like let's really magnify that. Herman Brown, who's a radio announcer or a newspaper person here in Okmulgee for a long time, he said that's one of the things that he remembered people promoting accomplishments of the young people in his community when he was a kid. And so that's something he always tried to do within his newspaper job. And I agree with him. I think that's really important, that we need to celebrate those things with our young people so that they know that they have support, whether it's good or bad. And then, like I said, and when they're, having a challenge, to also be there for them and support them and not judge them, just to be there for them and provide them, a listening ear. Sometimes that's all they need, is somebody just to vent to, and be there for them.
We'll get to the challenges in just a second. But I've had the assignment of covering the immersion camps put on by the language department a couple of times, and some of those young people just blew me away. They were so accomplished, not only confident in themselves, but in culture. Mm-hmm. And then one young man who's got a family connection was leading Creek hymns. Mm-hmm. And he just knocked it out. And the young people just followed and got involved, and understand he's gotten some academic awards and things like that. And Mr. Fife. So
yes.
Get to,
I know him.
Yeah. We'll go ahead and mention his name. Yeah. But, the kind of thing makes me proud, family-wise, of course, but as watching a Mvskoke young person with this kind of ability and strengths and things like that. Are there many of those out there, do you think? Again, I'm asking for an opinion, but do you run across them? Does it give you hope and encouragement as far as our futures?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I'll say Jay is probably one of the first young people that I met in this area and started working with. And so I call him my cultural mentor. So he knows so much. He really teaches me a lot, even being an old lady. And
old man.
Yeah, exactly. But there are a lot of those young people out there. And I think Jay comes from, he's had a good support his whole life, and so he's come with some confidence. When I met him, he was already there. And there's a lot of young people that are out there that have probably the same skills, but maybe not the same level of confidence. So that's really, what I like to see when they're gaining that and they're actually going out and leading activities. One of the things we try to do with our program is to have youth-led activities. And so getting our youth council members or local community members to work with us is really important, so that we can put those youth in the leadership roles, because young people are going to listen to them better than they're going to listen to me. Yeah. So hopefully giving them the skills and training that they need so that they can go out in front, and whether it be cultural sharing that they're doing or working on suicide prevention or other activities, things that they're passionate about, we really want to empower them to be able to do that, so that they can be really the face of our program and of our nation.
Mm-hmm. Was it last year when I guess your organization and a couple of others put on this concert at the Dome? What do they call it?
Creekcella.
Yes. I was thinking Creekapalooza, but Creekcella. That sounded like it was a success for its mission and its actual accomplishments. Is that pretty much the case?
Yeah, I think so. And they've talked about, maybe wanting to do that again at some time. doing some more planning with it and involving more young people, I think it could definitely be a really big activity. And we had a lot of fun at that day, just really experiencing that. Again, we had young people who were able to shine because they had youth performers, some who were local people that they knew, and then some who were just from the state of Oklahoma that they got connected with. And so they really focused on mental health during that event. And trying to get young people connected with really good resources.
No, that isn't.
We've got a caller on the line?
So,
no.
Yeah. But it looks like one of those scammers there.
Yeah.
So I shall promptly ignore it. Now, we mentioned the challenges and things that young people do. I mean, we've been talking about the bright, shiny kind of side of that coin, but we've still got some of the worst statistics in the country as far as young people and things like substance abuse or teen pregnancies and things like that. So what in looking at that kind of side of the coin, so to speak, what do you see? I mean, is there still that insurmountable challenge?
Yeah, I mean, it's still there. We have definitely a lot of challenges here in Oklahoma. Last year, we partnered with the Summer Youth Program and did some life skills classes with their participants. And we actually asked those young people about the challenges in their communities. And overwhelmingly, in every community, drugs and alcohol was the top challenge that they faced. With that came mental health issues. That was one of the things that was also a challenge for them. And then some of the more obvious things like lack of job and transportation and those kind of things. But a lot of emotional issues that they're dealing with. And I know that the drug and alcohol is a prominent one. We see that in statistics that that we get. But then hearing it from our young people, it's also a big challenge. Recently, we were in Wetumpka for a speak out, which is something that we're hoping to do again in other communities. That the young people in that area, again, told us those same challenges. But one of the biggest things that came out of it was that they have a lack of positive influences, so adult influences in their community. And so our program actually has been wanting to do mentoring since we started in 2014. We saw that was a need. It was identified then. And challenges just as far as we're a very small staff, so trying to make that happen has been harder for us. We've actually recently gotten an AmeriCorps Vista volunteer in our program, so she'll be with us for a year, and her focus is on creating our mentoring program. So she's able to do a lot of the backside stuff of getting data and surveys. So we've been out in communities doing surveys. And then she'll also be leading the charge of developing what our mentoring program is going to look like. We have dedicated a little bit of our budget, so we'll be able to do that. Hopefully in the fall is our goal to kind of launch that. But we're also applying for a grant. So hopefully if we get that, then we'll be able to expand that and do that in a few different communities versus just in a small area that is where we'll have to focus at the time. But we're excited about that. We're going to call it Mvskoke Mentors. And so we've been doing a lot of surveys. We still are looking for individuals, adults who are interested in being mentors. So if they want to contact our office, they can go ahead and get their information turned into us, or they can go to our website at mvskokeyouth.com, and it's spelled Mvskoke. And they can actually enter their information there online, and we'll have their data. So when we're ready to contact and start looking at training mentors, we'll be able to have a pool of people that are interested. We already have about 83 people who've signed up to be potential mentors, and so we're really excited about that. And we've been out at Challenge Bowl last week, and we had almost 200 young people who completed a survey for us. We were just blown away that many people stopped and did that survey for us. And we'll be there again at the Middle School Challenge Bowl, and we're looking again for more data from them about what are their needs, and do they have those connections, and then they'll also have an opportunity to sign up for a mentor if that's something that they need.
Now I understand Glenpool walked off with it again.
They always do. They're great. They really study hard up there in Glenpool. But Beggs, I'm going to have to say Beggs is never too far behind. They did a great job. My son goes there.
Well, I understand that Glenpool actually has kind of a dedicated segment of their curriculum.
Yeah, they have a class. And I think that's a great benefit that they have. So, yeah, that gives them an advantage, I'm going to say. No, I'm just kidding. No, it really helps. Yes.
I'm glad that happens. Our people founded that town, and it was our oil that they were pumping out. So.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that they've kind of return the favor.
For sure. I wish all of the JOM programs and programs that participate were able to do that within their own schools, that they were able to have that dedicated class. Yeah.
Well, we started this segment with the idea of talking about the spring celebration, so I suppose we should talk about it.
We should.
Now, we are a little bit early here. It is scheduled for March the 19th, right?
Yes.
Okay, what's the celebration all about?
Okay, so it is just a fun day over spring break. This will be the 17th year that this has happened for Mvskoke Creek Nation. It's open to everyone, not just Creek citizens or Native citizens. If you're in the community, we want you to come by. And the idea was to give them an opportunity to do something fun. So maybe families who don't get to take vacations on spring break, or maybe have limited funds, things like that, just come out. Everything is free. We do carnival type activities with our local resource providers and tribal resource providers. So there are games like not whack-a-mole. What's the one where you throw cornhole? Yeah, cornhole. Darts and things like that. So there's all kinds of different activities they can do, as well as cultural activities. We always have basket weaving with Mary Smith. We'll be doing some traditional games. Trying to think what are the other ones. Hopefully corn husk dolls also. And so lots of just really fun stuff. Possibly some stickball. We're looking for a person to lead that still. And face painting. We have airbrush tattoos. That's super fun. There was a big hit last year. And so we'll have that again for the kids. And a photo booth always. Photo booth is like one of the biggest attractions, and they get photos to take away with them, and then they're available online for them to access to, so that's really fun. And then we have the Preston jump rope team. They come in every year and do a couple of presentations. They're amazing, and so we're really excited to have them back again. And it's just a big effort. Lots of volunteers. We were actually in a meeting the other day and talking about it's about 80 volunteers that it takes to put this day on. And so we'll be reaching out to the tribal members, or the employees, to help us man that and make this a successful day.
The range of activities is pretty amazing. And the times I've kind of taken a good look at it, I see all these buses pulling in and these kids in all these different colored T-shirts. And I'm looking at it and saying, first of all, those aren't just Mvskoke kids that are from the whole area.
Yeah.
And that in itself is kind of a lesson in life, so to speak. Now, what are you trying to, first of all, do you invite them, or do they come on their own? Do they ask to come? How does that work, first of all?
It's open to everyone, so we send out the information to all of the schools, communities. We try to put that in local newspapers, that kind of thing, so that the word is out that this activity is available for them. Sometimes they've actually been able to do that on the radio, announce on the radio on other stations that we are having. Other stations, I know. We have to go at other people as we can. We've got to use what we can. Brooks. We love Brooks, though. But yeah, just trying to get the word out to all of the different locations. So we try to do it in a central area. So usually it's around the Okmulgee area. It will be in Okmulgee County. We don't have our site confirmed yet, just paperwork-wise, but we're looking at the southern part of Okmulgee County. And so if that helps some folks as far as location. And then everyone from all of our surrounding counties are invited to attend, so not just Okmulgee County people can be there. And we usually have a good turnout from different locations. We have an art contest that actually just finished up, so we'll be announcing those winners pretty soon. Some amazing artwork came in this year, and so we have an elementary, middle school, and high school winner, and then the overall winner of those three gets their artwork put on the event T-shirt, and so that's just a bonus. They'll all receive prizes, and then that other person will get the T-shirt acknowledgement too. We also have a dance contest during the event. And we have, again, those three categories. And then a couple of years ago, we had a few adults who wanted to dance. They wanted to do a dance-off. And so we decided to add a prize for the adults also last year. And so I can't even remember. I feel like the lady actually had a walker that she was on, and she won the prize. It was amazing, yeah. So that was great. And even, like I said, the adults got out there and just really had a good time with that event. So we enjoy it with all of them. And we'll be doing that again. We'll have that dance contest again, including an adult division.
Okay, now this is like modern day dance.
Yes,
We're not talking,
no waltzing.
Stomp dancing.
Right, yes.
Okay, well, I can imagine some older people out there working. No.
It could happen, Gary.
Maybe I don't want to see that. Now, the whole thing has been, from what I've seen, pretty much a success. Kids are just having a delightful time.
Yes.
And enjoying the mix of more traditional activities like the basket weaving and things like that. In past years, there was fry bread making, but you've changed it now due to, let's say, nutritional pressures, or
yeah, I mean, that's one of the goals, is to promote wellness, and so really trying to focus on what could be more healthier options. We generally end up doing pizza because that seems to be the easiest for the big crowd that we have. I think we had almost 700 people last year.
Wow.
And so that's just a little bit easier and faster. However, this year we're only giving out water, so there won't be any soda. So that'll be at least one more helpful way to promote wellness in our project. Yeah.
So it kind of, this is the realities of what we're doing.
Yes, yeah.
All right. Can't imagine enough fry bread anyway to feed them.
Right.
Kind of like you'd have to, well, forgive my profanity here, but you'd have to almost be Jesus to have those 5 loaves and 3 fish?
Yes, yeah.
To feed the multitudes. The whole idea has been, I think, a success in seeing the kids having a good time and their parents relieved to have their young people, their kids, having a good time. I mean, that's one aspect that we don't discuss too much, but in the several events of this type that I've seen and covered as a journalist around the nation, that effect on parents is really critical.
Yeah.
Now, do you get some feedback? Do they tell you, anything about the activities their kids are doing, or they came out and they're speaking and they're blah, blah, blah?
Yeah.
What do you hear?
I think they've always loved it. I mean, we see some of the same families coming every year and watching their kids grow, basically. And so obviously they're having a good time. They're enjoying that. I think feedback that we've gotten is specifically around some of the cultural activities, that they like having that opportunity, whereas they may not always get to do that. And so I think that's a big piece of it. And then another thing that I've heard personally is just sometimes they've been able to connect with a resource that they didn't even know existed, or that a program that they had, and that kind of thing. So I think that's helpful a lot of times for when you've met somebody and oh, I can call John because I met him there and he told me about these 3 things, and so I'm going to follow up with him. And sometimes that's what we need, is just to have a contact person with different resources. So I think they all give good responses about being there and having those connections that are made.
Now, we mentioned earlier that parents enjoy the idea that if they can't make a vacation, this might be it. And I've seen that sort of thing happen, in other places, like top of the world, Barrow, Alaska. Believe it or not, the National Guard came in and put on a big Christmas party.
Oh, wow.
And the parents there, if you kind of watch them, and they're just having such a good time watching their kids have fun. I can swear that I saw a couple tears in their eyes, that they were able to enjoy something, or something the kids could get that they might not be able to produce for their children.
Yeah.
Now, is that the kind of thing you run across? I don't imagine all the time, but is it there?
Yeah, I'm sure that it is. Because as a young parent, I remember bringing my kids to this activity before I worked with the tribe, and it might have been because we didn't go anywhere for spring break, and that was just something fun that we could go out and do, and they can enjoy, and they sometimes win a door prize, and it makes them even, happier that they can do that. So I'm sure that we still have those families that this is just a great opportunity for them to do something fun. They're not out of pocket with it, and the kids really enjoy it. And a lot of times, like, they're learning ideas of things that they can do in their homes. Sometimes we've had vendors who've been able to do like healthy snacks, or they've been able to make a little plant and take that home, and so that's something that they have as a takeaway that they can grow. And as well as we have program information so that they can follow up and with programs that they might need.
Now, the opportunity, let's call it, to put these things on, it's got to be an immense use of resources and employee time and effort and things like that. What do those folks tell you? I mean, it's a lot of work from what I saw, and they've got to kind of keep their eyes on thousands of kids practically.
Yeah.
What do they tell you about participating in this activity?
And again, we have some of the same volunteers every year, so they enjoy it. They come back. They want to be a part of it. The tribe supports that. We have lots of supervisors that, I know the last couple of years, like we've been short on volunteers, and so I've gone to department supervisors and said, hey, do you have anybody? And always they send somebody to help us. So there's always someone willing to step up, even if we're in a shortfall of volunteers. So I think that shows the support, as well as, like I said, those return volunteers that are always there for us. And as far as our committee that puts this on, there's probably a good 15 to 20 volunteers that just organize this entire event. And so they're some of the same ones every year. They're really committed to doing that. We have a brand new chairperson this year. Her name is Karis. She's one of the therapists out in the Coweta Clinic. And so she's first time doing it. She hadn't been involved before, but she's doing a great job of leading this team. And so we're really excited to have kind of that new blood also, and some fresh eyes on what we've been doing, and maybe adding some new perspective on the planning and development of this event. Yeah.
Well, the shine will wear off, I'm sure.
Yeah, sure.
But there have been, unfortunately, so many stories about people preying on children and things like that. You're taking steps, I assume, to ensure safety and security. I mean, are Light Horse going to be there? How do you handle that?
We generally have the Light Horse Explorers come out and help with kind of security, parking, things like that.
Young people helping the young people.
Yes, yeah, and so their advisors, they're there to help them with that piece also. Ultimately, the parents are responsible for their children while they're on site with them. So we definitely don't want anybody just dropping their kids off. We want them to be a part of that activity because it is a family event. But all of our volunteers are generally employees. Sometimes our youth council kids help out with that. And so we really try to look at who's leading activities so that we make sure that we're covered on that piece. And then just taking every step that we can to ensure safety. We have several nurses who are on our committee, so we have first aid available and that kind of thing, as well as we usually consult with emergency management for any other assistance that we might need during our event.
All right, now this is an activity where the young ones can come enjoy it, but it is not a babysitting service.
It is not.
The age group, very young ones to teens who are almost not teens anymore.
Yeah. And so usually those littler ones are part of those families. So we've got a lot of baby strollers that we see coming through. And we even have door prizes for those little ones that are there. They don't always get to do a lot of the activities because they may just be too small, but at least they're part of their family's outing, yeah.
Do they know what's going on?
Yeah, they might be smiling.
Well, having a good time
Having
anyway.
a good time, yeah.
The activities you've got and things like that looks like, we mentioned time and resource, but that's can't be cheap. I mean, there's got to be some money put down and put into this.
Yeah, definitely. So the tribe has, in our budget, we have money to actually support this event. A few years ago, they actually increased that amount because we've been tracking what we've been spending, and so looking at that it's, costing a little bit more as time goes on, as well as there are several programs that have funding that they can actually dedicate towards different activities. For example, Office of Child Care generally assists with some of our bigger outdoor activities that we have. They usually have there's like a wax hand activity that's been a real big hit. They're looking at some other activities that might be some like small carnival games that they might be able to help us with. And so they have a dedicated piece of funding they assist with. I believe the TANF program is looking at their budget to see if there's things that they can assist with. And a lot of times the other programs do that. When I first became a part of the committee, there were other grants that were involved in this, and so everybody kind of pitched in and made it as big as we can. And so it's worked out every year, and like so we just kind of really try to do things as fiscally responsible as we're able to, and partnering with other programs as we can. The carnival games are all free to us because we ask the tribal employees to come in and bring those from their programs. And so probably the biggest expenses we have are food and t-shirts and maybe the inflatable games.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you mentioned food now. This has got to be an activity where you're going to have a lot of little ones saying, well, hey, I'm hungry.
Yeah.
And you provide for part of that, right?
Yes, we do. The lunch is free to everyone with the drink, and we usually have a cookie or something snack with that, and so that is provided to everyone. The event is from 10 to 2, so hopefully they've had a little breakfast before they got there, and then they can have dinner when they get home. And then also I think it supports those who might be food insecure, so maybe they're on spring break and they don't have food at home. They can at least come and get that one meal that afternoon with us. So and we find that in a lot of our different activities where we're in communities where folks are food insecure.
I presume it's a little more than a bologna sandwich and Kool-Aid.
Yeah, we try to have some pizza and cookies, and then we'll have our water this year.
Yeah, although bologna sandwich is pretty good.
It is good with some Lay's plain potato chips, right?
Oh, yeah. Red Kool-Aid.
And red Kool-Aid, you're right.
Red lips on there. The logistical thing is what we want to leave with our listeners here. So let's recount date, time, location, if you will be announcing in the near future.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Okay, yeah. So the event is on March the 19th. It'll be from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Our location is almost ready to announce. We'll have that at the end of February, so beginning of March. You'll still have plenty of time to know where, but it'll be in the Okmulgee County area, hopefully in the southern part of our location. So
let us know and we'll pass on the word.
We will. And we have a Facebook page, so they can find us at TCYC, Mvskoke TCYC on Facebook also. That will help them to connect with that.
And that's also the place to go if people have interest in the youth services and your program.
With youth services, it's actually, we have our Facebook page is Mvskoke Youth. And actually, if you type that in, Mvskoke Youth, you'll find us on all the social media, as well as our website is mvskokeyouth.com.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, Nancy, thank you so much. We've had an interesting chat about this event.
Yeah.
And I'll be out there poking around, I think, maybe with a camera or a microphone and disturbing people.
Sounds good.
And we'll see you then. So,
okay. Thanks for having me.
Okay, that's Nancy Mason, who's with Youth Services, talking about our spring celebration coming up. Let's take a minor break here, and we have a few community announcements. So stay with us here on Mvskoke Radio.
Who am I? Am I native? I don't want people assuming things because I'm Indian. I just want to be me. But how do I live in two worlds? Some guys just check out by doing meth. But that ain't for me. Because I see my family, my friends, my drum making, my future. There are a lot of cool things about being who I am. And meth isn't one of them.
Learn more at ncai.org. A message from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America and the National Congress of American Indians.
Okay, we have a few things to share with you. First of all, if you're a hockey fan, it's a Tulsa Oilers hat trick. This weekend at the BOK Center, 3 nights of action start Friday night at 7:05 when the Oilers take on the Wichita Thunder. Then on Saturday at 7:05 and Sunday at 4:05, the Worcester Railers make their first ever visit to Tulsa. Stick around after the game Sunday and skate with the players. Buy tickets today by phone or text at 918-632-7825 or online at tulsaoilers.com. And get ready for 3 days of exciting games with the Tulsa Oilers. Of course, the Challenge Bowl is still continuing on Fridays. The 8th is the middle school teams coming in to do battle over their knowledge of Creek culture and language and things like that. So you might want to check that out. It's at the College of the Mvskoke Nation. So you might want to check that out Friday afternoon. If you're interested in the Toastmasters Club, there's a chapter starting up locally. Officers and members of the Okmulgee Spillway Speakers invite you to their first meeting Thursday, February the 14th at the Harmony Building located at the First United Church. You want to talk to June at 918-759-7814. Okay, Natives Love to Skate Party coming up on February the 16th from 4:30 to 6:30 at Skateland in Tulsa. That's 1150 South Sheridan in Tulsa. You can register and print out a waiver for attendance, and it's Teen Violence Awareness Month, and this is one of their activities. So they invite you to come skate, live DJ, photo booth, skating games, pizza, and a free T-shirt. 732-7979. Okay. Formal clothing donation. Mvskoke Creek Department of Education and Training is collecting gently used formal wear to donate to Mvskoke Creek students this prom season. You want to get a hold of Savannah Chamberlain at 918-732-7743. Oh, that about does it for me. We're running out of time. We thank you for joining us, Mabowhedget, Amado Mabowhedget, and join us again next week, and we'll have more stuff here on Mvskoke Radio. So we'll bow out here. You've been listening to Mvskoke Radio. Join us again next week for more local, tribal, and community news and updates. Mado.